at Florida Supercon at the Miami Beach Convention Center here with the Florida Super Championship Wrestling. And Jonny Vandal, who's worked incredibly hard over the years, building up his character, going everywhere and anywhere, wrestling. This is his life, his dream. Jonny, you're a part of this show. What is it like? You are Deathstroke?
Deathstroke, yeah, that's
for
the character
this,
I play.
the character you play, because here the difference is they combine cosplay with pro wrestling.
Absolutely.
So you have to take on a character. What has it been like for you as a pro wrestler to sort of transform into a different type of character?
The transition at first was a little tough. It took me a little while to kind of find my character, Deathstroke. It's tough for me because I don't want to say that I'm not like everybody else, but I didn't grow up watching comic books. I'm not a big comic book fan. I'm not a cartoon guy. So it was a very different atmosphere for me, and I couldn't find a character that stuck that I would like, that would be believable. But then when they threw the whole Deathstroke thing at me, I started using some YouTube and some Googling, and I Googled Deathstroke a little bit, and I said, this guy's badass, man. I mean, he's basically, if Batman was a heel, was a bad guy, that would be him. So, you know, I thought that was perfect for me because I prefer, you know, doing a bad guy when I wrestle anyway. So, I mean, and they went through all the expenses and everything like that to find the suit for me and the mask, and they had a makeup artist and all this stuff, you know, and then it really clicked, you know, and then I started watching, like, I will YouTube, like, Deathstroke quotes, and I'll try to see how he talks, so when I cut the promos, I'll try to do it in his voice, very monotone, very calm, but also very, like, leaving a big impact, man. So that's what I want to do as a character, and I'm excited tonight. Tonight's the last night at Florida Supercon, and we got me and Green Arrow in a last man standing match, and I haven't been in a match like that in a few years, so it'll be interesting, man. You know, I'm not getting any younger. I'm only getting older. I've already been in the business around 13 years now.
But you started young.
I started young.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get into that, though. Yeah, I started very young, and now, you know, me being 28, 12 years, 13 years later, I don't have too many more of these matches in me, so the fact that I can do a last man today in front of a Supercon crowd, which is super loud and things like that, it's really awesome, man. I really look forward to it. I got, you know, my family comes to the shows now, my girlfriend comes to the shows, so it's cool to have your support there and stuff like that, and let them see what you can do, you know.
Not knowing much about Supercons, Comic Cons, were you surprised at just how many fans show up for this and the wrestling show itself and get into it like they do, especially getting into the Riddler, Spider-Man, Goku, Lobo, all these different characters, your character?
Right. Well, half of the characters you just named, I didn't even hear of before I started wrestling for this convention. So for me, I didn't know that, you know, tens of thousands of people every year get together, dress up in costumes, and support their favorite comic character. To tell you the truth, I thought this was an Xbox convention 4 years ago. I didn't know, you know, I didn't know it was this popular, but then I realized, you know, because when push comes to shove, for me, it's always been about wrestling. So when the wrestling shows here drew the biggest crowds in Florida history, I said, we got it, you know, it doesn't, and the wrestling, yeah, it's a big part of it, and it has to be believable, but you can also do more of a cartoon side of it, and people will still buy it, and I think that the people are into the wrestling, but I think they're also more into the characters, and I think the fact that you get to see like a Batman versus Joker or a Deathstroke versus Green Arrow, I think that's people's like fantasies, the comic book fantasies, like wow, they're really fighting and I get to see it live. So I think for people, I think it hits something in them that really triggers them to get excited about it and come to the shows yearly, you know, and Supercon's one of the biggest crowds that we get, and yeah, you know, maybe some people say they're not here necessarily for the wrestling, they're here for the comics, but they come to the wrestling. So it's cool, man. It's a fun time, it's a good time, and just, you know, wrestling is a different character, man. It's fun, you know.
Wrestling has always been character-based anyway.
Right, absolutely.
Now, these are different characters, but it's been character-based. But as far as the wrestling itself, you're right, they really come to see the characters.
Right.
And then if you give them a good match, it's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that part of it difficult at first? Meaning, you're going to go out there and try to have the best match anyway.
Right.
But you didn't have to. Is that like a different mindset, obviously, for a pro wrestler to have to go into a match like that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I want to be the best that I can be. I want to put on the best show every night. I want people to go to a show and say, you know, Jonny or Deathstroke was the best match on the card every time. And, I mean, honestly, I believe that that's how people get noticed. I mean, you can be the best guy on a crap show where there's nobody, but that doesn't mean anything. If you're the best wrestler on a established show, like a Supercon show, or like the Evolve shows, or if I could have Match of the Night on Dragon Gate shows, then you know you have something. Then you know that the crowd's buying into what you do. You know, they see the hard work you're putting into the gym. You're doing everything that you can do to be the best at what you can do. And yeah, it's a little different here because you're right. I don't have to go out there and do a 5-star match and do a whole bunch of flips and people are like, I go out there and I kick somebody as Deathstroke and they're like, So the wrestling is very different. And tonight being a last man standing, you're going to see probably a lot less wrestling. But in general, yeah, it's more about the characters and what they do. So if Deathstroke does something in the cartoon that I could replicate in the ring, even though I wouldn't do that in a regular wrestling match for a Dragon Gate Evolve or a more established whatever, even Supercon, which is established, I can do it here just because it's character-based. So it's fun, man. It's different. It's unique. It's a good time. You know, it really is, and it's exciting, and the crowd's super excited to be here every year, you know. And even for me, even though I'm not like a comic book guy down, you know, some years they have special guests that I like to meet. This year the Power Rangers were here. That was cool. Also the Ernie Hudson, I believe his name is.
That's right, Ghostbusters.
You know, I grew up in the 80s. Well, I didn't grow up in the 80s, but I was born in the 80s. So that was one of the movies that I really watched, is Ghostbusters 1 and 2, man. So for him to be here, and I got to meet him yesterday and talk to him a little bit. And then, of course, the wrestlers like Jerry Lawler, the Hurricane, Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner. I mean, I met all of them, really cool guys. You know, picked their brain a little bit about the business. And, you know, just trying to better myself, you know. Like I said, 13 years in, you know, now's the time to get things moving, and I pick everybody's brain. You know, I'm still learning. You know, years later, I'm still learning. And I'm still trying to better myself. I'm trying to be the best that I can be, and hopefully one day get a contract. You know, get signed. That's always been the goal. It's been the goal since I was a little kid and I started watching wrestling.